Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Meaningful Motivations with Tracy Erickson. And of course, if you are new to this channel, welcome. My name is Tracy Erickson, and in this episode of Halloween Spooktacular, I'm going to be telling you about Merle Hay Mall, which is a haunted mall in my hometown of Des Moines, Iowa. So stay tuned. Merle Hay Mall in Des Moines, Iowa, was opened in 1959 and is the second oldest regional shopping center in the entire state of Iowa. Back in the year 2000 and 2001, I actually worked at Merle Hay Mall at the Wilson's Leather store that used to be there. During my time working at Merle Hay Mall, I never personally experienced any hauntings or strange noises or visions. But I will admit that I always thought that Merle Hay Mall had a heavier and darker energy than all of the other malls in the Des Moines area. According to Wikipedia, the site of Merle Hay Mall was originally home to St. Gabriel's Monastery from 1921 until its demolition in 1958. In 1956, the Passionist monks who resided there sold the monastery site to Chicago-based developers Joseph Abel and Bernard Greenbaum. In a 1994 interview, Joseph Abel stated that the developers chose Des Moines for the mall because of the city's reputation as a model urban area in Middle America. Malls were hugely popular in the 1980s and the 1990s, not only because of the huge amount of retail sales coming out of malls, but people in general loved to go to the mall as a gathering place. It was a large part of the American social life to spend time at the mall. Unfortunately, since the early 2000s and online shopping gaining in popularity, malls are slowly becoming a thing of the past, leaving many malls across America vacant and just desolate. And Merle Hay Mall is no exception. In 2020, there were even more challenges brought to the retailers that were still within the malls because of the response to the C-19 pandemic, which left many of the stores closed for long periods of time and therefore leading to their eventual demise. By August of 2020, some prominent retailers at Merle Hay Mall, including Helzberg Diamonds, Victoria's Secret, and Justice, to name a few, closed their locations at this mall. And in October of 2020, it was announced that the vacant Sears building would be demolished for future development. It is possible that all of the empty space and the lack of shoppers leads to this eerie feeling of being haunted. There are many times where haunting doesn't really take place outside of oneself. It's really how you feel on the inside when you are at particular locations. But it has been reported that Merle Hay Mall and its attached Merle Hay Tower, which is an office building near the Merle Hay Mall, are both locations of hauntings. In an article I found on DesMoinesRegister.com, it says Merle Hay Mall and a building in the mall known as Merle Hay Tower is built over the site of a monastery that was closed in the 1950s. Rumor has it that on occasion, a nun would become pregnant, with the pregnancy resulting in miscarriage. These babies were buried in unmarked graves on the monastery grounds where the mall stands today. In the present day, the Merle Hay Tower is said to be haunted by a figure wearing a very old-style habit who cries as she carries a dead child. People who have offices in the tower report an elevator that moves between floors with no one aboard late at night. When the elevator stops, footsteps can be heard, but when the sounds are investigated, no one is around. Cold spots are frequent, and a feeling of being watched when alone is also reported. Others report hearing someone walk into an office, and when they turn around, no one is there. I also found a Facebook post by Riverside, Iowa Paranormal that talks about the Merle Hay Mall Tower and the hauntings that take place there. It says in the post, one witness reports, "I was walking through the tower and saw a nun-looking figure walking from a room to another room across the hall. I thought it was a coworker playing a prank on me, but I searched each room and I was the only one on that floor." And another witness said, "I just got back from there and I had a strange feeling and heard what sounded like distant crying and whispers, and I felt like I was being watched. So I turned around and saw this figure that then disappeared." On hauntedplaces.org, one user stated that, "One time when I was in the elevator in Merle Hay with my sister, then all of a sudden the lights flashed and a ghostly noise was heard by both of us. Then I closed my eyes and my sister screamed. When I asked why, she said she had seen a ghost of a nun and her normally paper white skin was beyond white and she was scared to go to the mall for the next 5 years." And another user replied to that comment saying, "The same thing happened to me. I was walking down the halls to a place where they were doing construction when I saw a woman walking through the wall carrying a dead baby. The second I saw it, it came charging at me. I screamed. My mother came running out of the store she was in, and I pointed to where I had seen the nun, but it wasn't there. Ever since that happened, I haven't been to the mall." Another user said, "I just got back from there and I had a strange feeling and heard what sounded like distant crying and whispers. And I felt like I was being watched. So I turned around, saw this figure that disappeared. From what I've noticed, it seems like the nun and the dead baby are haunting Merle Hay Tower and the office spaces there. But there are also reports of strange sounds, of orbs, of moving dolls and mannequins, and all kinds of other creepy things taking place within the mall itself. In fact, the mall even had a fire at the Yonkers building in 1978. On November 5th, 1978, it was a typical Sunday at Merle Hay Mall until there was a big explosion at 9:30 a.m. at the Yonkers department store. The explosion was followed by screams and panic, and eventually 10 people were killed in one of Des Moines' most deadly fires. On hauntedplaces.org, one user named Finian wrote, "Back in the early 1970s, I worked at the Bishop's Buffet in Merle Hay Plaza, as it was then known. In the basement area of Bishop's were storage rooms and employee locker rooms. At night, it was a bit of an unsettling place to be. More than one coworker claimed to have seen translucent apparitions of everything from nuns in full habits to priests in full frocks and faint Gregorian chants. I personally observed the same priest walk down the hallway from the main storeroom to the men's locker room and vanish into the door. I never felt threatened or menaced, but several of my female coworkers refused to use the locker room or even go into the basement after dark." And yes, Merle Hay Mall has a basement. Actually, in the basement, you will find a bowling alley. But at one time, there were other shops and restaurants located in the basement, but now it's really just a dark, desolate, and unsettling place to be, outside of the bowling alley. One user who claims that they currently work at the mall and have a lot of friends who are on the security staff there. And she's heard lots of stories from the security staff who work overnight that say they have seen a lady in white spotted in the tower and by multiple people on separate occasions. Now, she was also told of extra mannequins that were stored in the garden court. She was told that these mannequins move around on their own all the time. One of the staff even rearranged the mannequins to try and scare a coworker as a prank. But in the 20 minutes before the coworker arrived, the mannequins had all moved, seemingly on their own. A user by the name Autumn Stout said this: "I work in the Target in the mall, and team members have reported balls rolling back and forth across the floor in the middle of the night, toys going off with no one around, the sound of running coming up behind people, and breathing in people's ears, as well as apparitions." And that's just a few recollections. So many people have experienced some kind of strange occurrence at Merle Hay Tower and Merle Hay Mall. These occurrences include the nun and her dead baby, a priest that wanders around, an elevator that moves between floors when no one is on board, footsteps when no one is around, feeling cold in certain areas, having the feeling that someone is watching, and also hearing people walking up behind you only to turn around and see no one there. There have also been reports of people who see floating orbs at certain times and in certain areas of Merle Hay as well. I would love to know what you all think about this possible haunting taking place at Merle Hay Mall and Merle Hay Tower in Des Moines, Iowa. Do you think that this is actually taking place, or are all of these people who claim to have witnessed these strange occurrences simply lying to us? Let me know in the comments down below what you think about it. But in my opinion, I actually believe these people who claim to hear and see strange things taking place within the mall, especially nowadays where the mall is full of dark corners and silence. The place that was once full of people and the hustle and bustle of running from shop to shop is now empty. It's desolate. It's almost like the mall is turned into a ghost town of sorts. And when something becomes a ghost town, it leaves behind this energy, this feeling of days gone by, which always leads to that feeling of being haunted in one way or another. Whenever something very tragic takes place, such as a fire where multiple people die, or even something tragic as far as miscarrying your baby and having it buried in an unmarked grave, can lead to this imprint of energy that stays on the land where that actually took place. So it may not be the actual ghost of the nun and her dead baby, but it's the imprint of that tragic event that continually plays out energetically in the spirit realm. And every once in a while, in the right silence and at the right time, the spiritual realm peeks through just a little bit, and we're able to hear things or see things or even just feel things that may not be there presently, but were there at one time. Well, that about wraps it up for this video. So if you like this video, be sure to click that like button. And of course, if you're a viewer but not yet a subscriber, I would love for you to click subscribe down below. And once you have subscribed, you can turn on the notifications bell if you would like to be notified each and every time I upload a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching and spending your time with me. I love you. And I'll see you next time. Bye.